We were actually operating like a startup inside of an almost trillion dollar social media company, right? Statement at the top is right off of the Meta website. Meta is all about building technologies that help people connect, find communities, grow businesses. It's really about the connect word. I know there's a lot of cynicism out there about the company that I work for, but that's really the unifying theme of everything that Meta does. And if you look across the bottom, this is the way that people really know Meta, right? We call this the family of apps. This is Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, WhatsApp, and of course, the vast majority of our revenue and profit is in those areas. But there are emerging technologies, right? Some of which, well, both of which I'm sure you heard a lot about, right? One is the metaverse on the left-hand side. That is actually Reality Labs. So Reality Labs is the business unit that is selling hardware and software in the augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality world. On the hardware side, you can see the two main products that we're selling now, the Quest on the bottom, which is the virtual reality headset, and then you can see above the Ray-Ban Stories product, smart glasses. But what's really important about this is that the Reality Labs offering, whereas it started out primarily as a hardware offering to our consumer channels, to all the big retailers around the world and ultimately to consumers directly, very much focused on gaming. That world is really evolving. And you can see some of the applications in the video there. We already have customers, enterprise customers who are using our technology for really fascinating things. For example, in the healthcare world, training doctors and care providers on their technology, right, without having to be physically present. On the left-hand side, you can see the Workrooms product, where you're actually able to bring kind of the real world and the virtual world together, which was really useful even for us internally during the COVID days. And then, of course, AI. You can't not talk about AI, right? That's a huge effort on the part of the company. And there's a lot of talk in the press about doing one or the other. We don't believe it's one or the other. We believe it's all of these things together, right, against that mission. Okay, so this is our headset. So in the summer, we announced MetaQuest 3, which is going to launch in the fall. Next week is our Connect conference, and so you'll be hearing more about our products and services next week. What I was going to show you was a super cool video about the future of the metaverse, but we had a little technical difficulty, which par for the course. So I'll make sure that you guys have the link to this after. But what's fascinating is it really highlights the huge opportunity beyond gaming that we have with Reality Labs in the metaverse. That companies in all industries and around the world are really exploring the opportunities to use the virtual reality hardware and the software offering that we have collectively to solve their problems. And that's actually the connection to like true revenue ops, right? It's the first time that Reality Labs has brought together selling hardware and software together, and they're very different selling cycles. And now they're not. Now they're merging together, and that's one of our challenges. Okay, so I came in to the sales operations role, as I said, just about 1.5 years ago. I came into the company 3 years ago. Reality Labs was already up and running, right? We had a portal program. We were just about to launch Ray-Ban Stories. We had Quest 2. And we already had all that complexity, right? We were selling in 25 countries. We had hundreds of SKUs. We had 100 classic retail and carrier partners. We had over 1,000 partners and customers for our workplace product, which was actually our SaaS offering in the work world. We had already had X million units of lifetime headsets sold. I can't tell you what that actual number is. and we were doing it in 4 channels of distribution. Third-party retail, which is like the Best Buy, Amazons of the world, the carrier channel, our direct-to-consumer, which is our own online stores, and then, of course, B2B commercial. And that was driving a ton of complexity. So it was fascinating in the first session today, right, where you had someone sitting over here who's the one-person shop at a startup, and the person over here works for Google. We're a little bit of both, right? We were actually operating like a startup inside of an almost trillion dollar social media company, right? So in some ways, we should have probably been further ahead than we really were. So this was going to be my second video, and so I'm going to describe it to you. So has anyone here seen the movie Apollo 13? Apollo 13. Okay, so it's one of my favorite movies, and there's a really important scene in Apollo 13, and they actually play it at business schools around the world. And they've just discovered that they're not going to be able to complete the mission, and their only job is to figure out how to get Tom Hanks and Kevin Bacon, and I forget the third guy, like back to the Earth. And one of the problems that they have is that the CO2 levels are increasing and the oxygen levels are decreasing, and they have to come up with some sort of solution that is actually going to reverse that and allow them to get back. And basically, square peg, round hole, like, you know, classic meme. And you see the engineers, and they have a table like this, and they basically just dump all of the stuff that they think is actually on the lander, and they have to figure out how to make a square peg fit into a round hole. Well, that's what we were doing. We were literally, as I was coming in, building the plane while we were flying it, or in this case, the rocket while we were flying it. And it's awesome, right? We were scrappy. We were getting amazing things done, right? But it wasn't planful, right? It was very reactive rather than proactive. So that was their solution. They got it in. But this is where we were, right? We actually brought in a third-party consulting company to help us do an assessment. And what we realized was that where most companies were considering their RevOps and sales ops capabilities at about 90% advanced, we were actually closer to 10 to 15%. And I think we knew that we had done a lot of good things, but we hadn't done enough. I think this was incredibly eye-opening for us, right? That we already were, like I said, a startup in a big company. We were already a multi-billion-dollar business, and we were at the most immature level that we could have been in terms of our capabilities. So what did we do? So basically, we ended up identifying what those leading capability areas were, right? We identified, with the help of an outside consultant, we had PwC with us in this process, identified 24 industry capabilities, and we built the roadmap. We basically said, we need to be more thoughtful, more planful, and actually think ahead, envision where we wanted to be, and then make sure that we were progressing, right, in a really methodical way towards that objective. Okay. So the first thing that we did was we made sure that PwC brought to us industry-leading practices, right? What we didn't want to do was we didn't want to get bogged down by where we were already, right? Who we were, who we thought we were, what we thought was important. We needed to have that outside-in perspective, right? And then we developed the roadmap against that. And then, of course, we prioritized, right? That we knew that there were burning platforms that we actually had to address right away, a lot of them very foundational, but we made sure that as we were building the roadmap, we were super thoughtful about what those near-term projects were. Okay. And then, like any good program, we really, really added structure in a way that we'd never had before. And I know this sounds crazy, right? We're Meta, we were a gigantic company. We were Reality Labs, we were already a multi-million-dollar business. But we actually had to spend the time to actually construct the methods to be able to manage this program, right? So nothing crazy here, right? It was literally like mapping the capabilities, writing the project charter. We didn't do a full ROI, mostly because we knew that we were going to have to do these things anyway because they were so foundational. But we did do basically a benefit versus level of effort, right? So that we could help prioritize. And this was our result. And so in a million years, I'm not going to go through all of the stuff that's here, but think about it this way, is that we had pillars on the left-hand side, right? Strategy and planning and all of the capabilities associated with strategy and planning. We had the cross-functional processes and tools, one of which was planning and forecasting, KPIs, dashboards, et cetera. And then we had things that were very specific, one to our consumer business and second to our commercial business, right? And we wanted to make sure that we called those out separately.